So today we are joined by Elspeth. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do at Wet Wheels South East?
I'm Elspeth. I am the office manager at Wet Wheels South East, and we are a disability boating company. So we take people with severe complex needs through to the hidden disabilities out to sea to get an experience of being at sea, power boating. And it's not just about sitting on the boat, having a trip and looking at some beautiful scenery. It's about getting involved, getting up to the helm. The boat is capable of taking up to 3 wheelchairs and getting those wheelchairs up to the helm so anybody can drive the boat.
Honestly, it sounds amazing. Ever since I first saw you share it, because I think I knew you through business connections. So
Yeah.
you have your done virtually side of your business stuff. And then when I found out that you were involved in this, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. The fact that you can bring wheelchairs onto boats and not just tick that box of we have a boat where we can bring a wheelchair on, but we have an entire process that makes it like we have dignity in our process and we have understanding in our process and we listen to what people need and we make sure that not only are they on the boat, but they get the chance to be at the helm. So tell me about that. What's that like when they get to be at the helm of the boat?
It's really interesting. It's not just about the person at the helm. It's about the family and the carers. Quite often we have feedback that I never knew that they could do this. And I've never had an experience where our whole family is treated exactly the same. Because quite often we have families that come on the boat and it will be mum, dad, child in a wheelchair, child not in a wheelchair, child with neurodiversity development. And they are all treated the same. They all get to drive the boat. They all get to experience the same thing at the same time. And it's a real eye-opener that families just don't have this opportunity anywhere else, and nobody is treated differently. Everyone's mucks in, everyone does the same. When we're dealing with the ropes and lines, when we're coming into dock, quite often we'll get the children to hold the lines for us. And it helps us out because when we're getting the boat alongside, having someone holding a line for us, we know that it's safe and then we can just have it passed to us off the boat. And it is that whole inclusivity that Wet Wheels is founded around.
Yeah. And do you know much around the founding story, kind of what triggered it and where it started from?
Yeah. So it all started with a gentleman called Jeff Holt. He was a sailor and he went out to, and I want to say Antigua, but don't quote me on that one, when he was 18 to go and be a yacht boy, basically. So he would go out, help out on boats, and he was, living his life at 18, having a fantastic time. He made a mistake. He jumped into some shallow water, mucking around with his mates, and hit a shallow patch and became quadriplegic. So he lost the ability to walk and most of the ability in his arms. He's got limited mobility in his arms, but his hands don't have much power. So his life altered. And that was when he was 18, 42 years ago, I think it was now. And he was like, well, I still love boats. I still love doing it. And originally he started with a charity called Sailability, which meant people with disabilities could go out sailing in little dinghies. And he loved doing it. And a lot of people got a lot of joy from it. And then he wanted to go out with more people. With the dinghy, you could only go out on your own or with one other. So he found a company called Cheetah Marine who would able to do a catamaran that he could go on in his wheelchair. So he started doing that with his mates, and more people came to him going, oh, can I take my friend out? Can I take my friend out? And soon he was letting people take the boat out, and it was costing him lots of pounds in fuel. And he's like, I can't keep sustaining this. This is not me, but there is this want and there's this need that people in wheelchairs want to go out on the water, but they don't want to get wet in a dinghy. So he started Wet Wheels Foundation, which is the charity that overarches all the Wet Wheels companies. So Wet Wheels South East CIC are a not-for-profit company and we're standalone, but we are under the umbrella of Wet Wheels Foundation, which is a charity. And there's 8 Wet Wheels spread around the country. So we've got, I have to remember them all now, Wet Wheels South East, who are in Dover, that's us. Then you've got Wet Wheels Solent, who are at Gunwharf Quays in Portsmouth. Wet Wheels Hamble, who are in the Hamble River. Wet Wheels Jersey, who are over in Jersey. Wet Wheels Torbay, who are in Torquay. Wet Wheels Southwest, who are in Falmouth. Then you go all the way up and over to Wet Wheels Edinburgh, who are obviously in Edinburgh. And then Wet Wheels Yorkshire, who are kind of like the Whitby area. And yeah, so whilst we are all separate, we are all one family, basically. And so, yeah, he set it up and decided, and so he started running just as the Solent, and then slowly they came on board, and Wet Wheels Southeast was the fourth one.
Oh, brilliant. So are there plans to roll more out, or is it like the 8 for now is the
I
8?
believe so. I think they're looking at Wales, so possibly Cardiff or Milford Haven. I'm not sure which. And then I think somewhere up in Northern Ireland, but again, I don't know an area. So we're looking, and then they want to get a 10th boat, so that would be 11. I think 10th boat, which would then become somewhere in Norfolk,
Oh,
because
okay.
we're missing that area. And then at the 12th boat, they want it to be sort of like an outreach boat. So it would go from location to location for longer periods of time. So for areas like, for instance, and this is like Liverpool don't have a boat, so potentially take a boat up to Liverpool, whether it's one of the existing Wet Wheels boats, and then the outreach boats covers their existing. What I don't think that is set in stone, but is a really long-term goal.
That's really cool. So almost like a pop-up in places that don't have it, to say we're going to be here for a period of time, and you can experience that. And those ones that you're potentially rolling out, where it's like Wales and Norfolk coast, and they're really stunning parts of the country as well, to be out on that coast.
They really are. So last year, as part of this experience, so we did a challenge called Finishing the Dream. So Jeff's dream was that nobody would be more than 2 hours away from a Wet Wheels boat to be able to experience being on the water. And in order to do that, we have to fund these boats, and they're quite expensive, and also be able to run these boats, which again is quite an expense, even as a not-for-profit. So we left London in May and circumnavigated the United Kingdom with Jeff at the helm, and I followed in the camper van, and we went around Britain. And some of the scenery that we saw, particularly in the places that there are no Wet Wheels boats, was just amazing.
I'm so jealous of that. Like, I love the water.
It was so much fun.
And the water can have such a calming effect as well, can't it? It's not just that it's stunning, but actually it's that nervous system thing of like being on the water.
So there's a saying called blue therapy. And I really, really believe in blue therapy. And it's the access to water, the access to the sound of the waves, the sea salt. I suffer from quite bad acne, and it really gets me. And when I'm in the summer, I don't have it, because I'm in and around the sea, and I'm in and around the salt. And it really, I can't say hand on heart that is the reason, but come February, my face is like awful, and it's just like, well, I just need to be by the sea, and it's lovely, but a bit cold in winter.
Yes, yeah, a bit chilly.
Bit chilly. So yeah, the blue therapy really has a beneficial effect, and we got a lot of feedback from carers saying our participants came and they slept so much better the night after being on your boat, and they asked to return again and again and again. And it's so lovely to have that feedback.
Yeah, definitely. So talk me through that then, the kinds of people that you would have that come to you in Dover. Do you have people who come really regularly? Do you have people who come as groups? Who is it that you sort of serve?
So we have lots of different people that come to us. We have groups, we have individuals, we have families, we have people who come for the first time. This year, we have had so many first timers. It's been amazing. So this year alone, we had 745 people who have never been on a Wet Wheels boat before. And regularly we get told they have never been on any boat. This is the first time they've ever been on a floating vessel. And it's such an experience to be able to be there with them for that experience and seeing them enjoy themselves. So we do have regulars, and we know a lot of people by name, so they'll book up and we recognize numbers and voices, so they'll phone up and go, I'd like to make a booking, and I'll be, oh, that will be Joe Blogs, and they're like, oh, do you know that? I was like, well, I just recognize you because you come lots of times and we know them. And as we get to know them, we understand their abilities, and we know that we can support them on their boat. We have a particular young lady, and she's been with us probably 8, 9, 10 times, and she always comes with a carer. So she lives independently, and she lives with carers, and she has very severe complex needs. She is non-verbal, and she is in a wheelchair. but she comes with us, and through coming with us so often, we understand her abilities. We have started to recognize her communication skills. So her looks, the way she does communicate, whilst it's non-verbal, we're starting to pick up on that because we have her so often. And last year, her mum rang us and said, I would like to book an experience for my daughter for her birthday. And we would all like to come. So we would like to do one boat. So they hired the entire boat for the family. And her family had never been on the boat before, only her carers. And so I was like, okay, what would you like? And she said, oh, I think we'll just do the Dover Harbour Tour. So we have different experiences, and Dover Harbour Tour is our slowest, the quietest one, which is kind of like quite a lot of people don't want to do the whizzing around fast. They just want to have the slow, get to understand being on a boat. And I said to her, I'm really sorry, I won't book that for her because she will not enjoy it. You have to go for the fast one, because if we're not going fast, she complains, and we know that she doesn't like it. So we put on a special. So it's not a trip or an experience we would normally do. We just took the family out and said, we'll take you out and we'll do a special for what we know she would like. And they came off the boat and they came into our office and they looked at us and said, we've never seen her like that. And she with arms in the air, screaming, in her own way. And I'm trying not to use her name because obviously GDPR and all that, but she just had a whale of a time. You have to be careful because she does love to pinch your bottom. But yeah, and she had the most amazing birthday because we understand her requirements, and because she comes regularly, we know what she likes and we know how she reacts. And we knew that if we took her on a slow experience, it just would do nothing for her and she would just get upset because she knows she's on the boat and she knows she wants to go fast. And on a previous, like I think the year beforehand, I bumped into her mum and a carer at the Designer Outlet Centre close to our house. And I saw her, and obviously I recognise people quite, when they come on our boat, because I recognised her. And I said, oh, hello. And she looked at me and she got all excited, and her carer was like, she knows you're from the boat, and now we're going to have to book a boat trip because she's seen you. But she was, in her own way, she was communicating boat. And it was like, wow, she's cognitive, but unable to verbalize and unable to, as you or I would communicate, but she knows and she communicates in her way. And it's all about learning and working with carers and families to ensure that the person is having the best time they can.
I love that. And I love that you were able to create a bespoke thing for that event for her, in a way where, like, the whole thing around inclusive tourism, inclusive events, just generally being inclusive, is that there isn't a one size fits all.
No.
And so you could have 20 packages and still not have a package that suits a particular family or a particular individual. And so by being open to being flexible and building the experiences around the person, the family, the carers, I think that's the thing that makes it most inclusive almost.
Well, we have a saying, we don't have any problems. We just have solutions we've not found yet. So we're all about finding a solution that works for everybody. One of the things when we took over Wet Wheels, as we've been part of Wet Wheels for 4 years now, and she's been running for 7. So we've been doing 4 out of 7 years. And one of the issues that we found but was known about was where with life jackets. To make sure your life jacket works, you have to have a crotch strap, which is a strap that goes between your legs so that the life jacket is attached to you. So if someone pulled the life jacket, if you were in the water and they pulled the life jacket, your life jacket and you go together. Otherwise, if you pull the life jacket and you're not attached, then there's no use. But we found when people with disabilities, particularly those who are in wheelchairs, you can't get a strap between their legs without either lifting them up or, being quite manhandly, trying to push things in sensitive areas. And whilst most people are used to it with carers and things, and we work with carers to make sure that life jackets are put on properly, it's not dignified and it's not the way you want to be handling people, particularly in the crotch area. So we came up with a system where rather than having the strap that goes between the legs, we have a loop at the front and then a strap down to a loop that goes round the leg. So there's no interfering with somebody in a private area, and you've got them safe. And we came up with the idea. James, my husband, came up with the idea, and we tested it rigorously. So we were really lucky. Faversham swimming pool allowed us to go in and have a section of the swimming pool. They let us have the indoor swimming pool, which was heated. I said that was cheating. And then we just tried all the different systems, throwing James in and out of the swimming pool and making sure that it worked, and whether you had to have 2 legs or 1 leg, or how it was, all the different variations. And we worked out that it worked. And one of the other parts of this strap, and I don't get the science behind it, I never do, is if you do end up in the water face down, if you don't have the strap attached either between the legs or on the leg, you remain face down.
Oh, wow.
But if you have it, I don't know how it works, but it turns you to be face up. So
Wow.
obviously you have to have that to be able to right yourself. So if you had a head injury, or you were disabled or unable to right yourself, you then could breathe, which is kind of handy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, we saw that this issue was there, and we worked with the team at Wet Wheels as well. We came up with a solution, and now it's been rolled out across the whole fleet. So
Amazing. It's that problem solving from a place of understanding and compassion,
yeah,
and not just, well, there is a solution and the solution is undignified, but it works and it's safe.
Yeah.
That wasn't good enough for you.
not at all.
You had to take it a step further, which is brilliant. And the fact that that's
Yeah.
now across the country and all of the other wet
Mm.
wheels is brilliant. So are there other things then that you've kind of got in Dover where you have considered that sort of thing? So changes you've made or systems and processes you have?
Yeah. One of our biggest one and our biggest expense is we now have an office. So before, we shared an office with another company, and all our safety briefings and our putting life jackets on happened out on the front of the beach. So beachside, get the group together, you get life jackets on, and then get them down to the boat. And we found that to be disruptive because there's so much going on around. And particularly if people are neurodiverse, they might not be able to focus. They might find they've got something else they want to go and do. And also, again, with getting life jackets on, you do have to manhandle people a little bit. It's a bit like putting on a coat, but you have to pull people forward in their wheelchairs to get it round them, even before you put the leg loop on, and before, obviously, we were doing the crotch straps. So obviously you're fiddling and putting things and moving things, and it just wasn't dignified. I think dignified is the right word. 3 years ago, we opened up the office in Dover, and it's got plenty of space. We can meet and greet people, bring them in, and it is a safe, quiet space for groups. So when groups, particularly big groups, come down, we have a lot of school groups, or whiz kids come and join us, or Includes Us Too, or any other organisation come down. They've got the whole space to themselves. We can close the door if we need to, because we've had instances with children, particularly children with autism, love water and they want to get to the sea. So they will try everything they want to get to the sea. And that's not safe. So we can close the door and they can be safe in the office. And we have a video running showing the boat. So particularly those children that need the visual of what am I doing next, they've got the boat running, they can see what they're going to experience. We can then get life jackets on quietly and in a controlled manner, and then we can walk them to the boat. They can have this amazing experience, and then they come back to the office, and it gives them a chance to decompress. Because before, they'd come off the boat, we'd take off the life jackets, and it'd be bye. And these children are all like, we're wired, excitable, happy, but they've got nowhere to release that tension. They can come back to the office. They've got that breathing space. They can use the toilets. They've got, we've got all of that sort of experience. And we can now offer somewhere, a place for them to have lunch. So we can have school groups come down, have time on the boat, and then they can have their lunch. And it's just that all-rounded experience. Like before we had the office, we had one young lad, and it all became too much for him. He had an episode where he just was not going on the boat, and all he wanted to do was lash out because of his disabilities. And these things happen. And it was just as we'd taken over and we didn't have the office, and we took the boat out without him on it, and he spent an hour pinned on the floor outside the office door in a public beach. And that's not fair, and it wasn't dignified. And okay, he calmed down, but he was almost restrained for his own good because he was being cared for by his carers, and it was nothing to do with us. But we were like, that's not fair. And now we have the office. We have had children who've gone, can't cope, not going to do this, and we've gone, fine, come and sit, and they will sit quietly in the office. And they can get on with some colouring or some games, or we can, get them involved in puzzles or something else where actually their mind's been taken off the panic, the whatever's triggered them. They actually, whilst they might miss out on the boating experience, they're in a safe space where they can sit with a carer and be out of public view, and not be a show, as people stare every day. People stare, and that's not fair. So yeah, it's a really important thing to have is this new boat, is the office, sorry, and have that safe space for everybody.
I think it adds to that consistency as well. For those people who are coming back every time, it's you know that there is this space, not only as a backup space, but as the beginning and the end of your experience will be
Yep.
in this space. If it's suddenly raining outside, or if there's construction outside, or if there's things that are different in the outside space, coming into the inside space
Yeah.
is going to be more or less the same every time. And so that's another
Absolutely.
thing.
One of the things we've also brought into place is we have a video. So it's sent to all our participants of how to find us. And it's not just how to find us, it's also this is what happens. So it talks about how we get to the boat, and how the wheelchairs are attached to the boat, and how life jackets are put on, and all the rounded things. So carers can use that as a prompt to their young people to show them what's going to happen. And it helps with the calming of it as they come, because they know what to expect, and they know what they're going to see, and they know who they're going to see, and that sort of thing. And it gives them that more rounded experience.
Yeah, and I think those tools are so helpful. We've done an episode, and I don't know when this goes out, whether it will have gone out or be coming out, on social stories, and that thing of
Amazing.
having pictures and videos that show exactly how, the process is, from where you park to what happens when you get there, to where the toilets are, to where you can sit down, to, what to expect. And I think that's brilliant that you've got that in place. Honestly, I've this whole conversation, I've got goosebumps with everything you're saying. I'm like, it's amazing what you guys are doing, and the fact that you are seeing challenges that other people might not know to address, and then you are coming up with those solutions no matter how long it takes. So, another question for you then. What is one of your biggest challenges right now? Kind of whether it's, a problem you're yet to solve, or a challenge in general in the industry.
So we've got a couple of challenges. One is rising costs, and I think that's for everybody. We talk about barrier free and making everything barrier free, and those barriers aren't just physical barriers, but they're also financial barriers. We try and ensure that we keep the costs as low as possible. We are one of the very few organisations that don't do a carers discount, because we've brought it already in. So we try and keep a flat cost across everybody. Because quite often we get, oh, can we have a carer's discount? It's like, well, if we gave you a carer's discount, the participant would be double the price. So actually put it in, we've built it in already. And it's an expensive industry to be in. Fuel alone, we've used over 8,000 litres of fuel this season. And when you look at the cost of fuel, you can see how much that's going to cost us. And, we are not for profit company, so we keep those costs as low as we can, but we still have to pay for our insurances, for the engines, and, all those costs. But we are seeing that as our biggest issue, barrier, challenge. And as part of my role, I do a lot of fundraising, a lot of grant writing, and those are getting harder and harder to find. We've been really lucky. We get a lot of support from the Dover Harbour Board, their community fund. They give us money each year, which helps towards the cost of insuring the boat. And they also provide us our free berthing, which is amazing. We also get help from Collier Ferguson, and all these organisations, and the Co-op, and the Tesco's, and we have loads, and it's great. And we do have fantastic funders, and we have regular funders as well who see the benefits we're bringing. But we are noticing that there is a downturn in the amount of money we are receiving, because they don't have it either. It's a knock-on effect. So we try and keep the costs as low as possible. And we do support organisations and individuals who come to us. And for instance, we go up to Chatham twice a year and run out of the Chatham Maritime Marina. And Chatham Maritime Trust support us 100%. And they give us all the relocation fees. They give us the hotel costs, because obviously we've got to take the crew up there as well and keep the crew fed and watered and hotelled, and the cost of bringing the boat, because obviously we've got the fuel to take the boat around. But not just that, they pay for the participants to be on the boat. So the participants are only charged £5 for an experience up in Chatham, which is amazing. But ensuring the right people get on the boat and make sure that we are there for the disability community, and it's ensuring the right people find us and experience it. In Chatham, the end in September, just gone, we had a young man and his family, and he had his birthday party on board. So he had 2 of his friends come on board, and I have not laughed so much. They were such a lovely group, and it was just such a beautiful event to be part of, to have someone's birthday on the boat, and they could be inclusive. They had their friends, they had their siblings, all the parents were involved, and it was just wonderful.
I love it. I love it all. With your role under fundraising, do you put on sort of fundraising events, seasonal events? Like, are there ways that people can support you sort of in that space?
So we don't run any fundraising events as such. We do have a Just Giving page. I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Okay, we'll put it in the show.
Mainly because we don't use it very often, because we tend to go for grant funding, because we're a CIC. It would be funding that goes to the foundation, but it's then held for the CIC, so we can use it towards new engines. Because we're coming up to, I think, end of this year, end of next year, I'm not sure, having to replace our engines, and that's a £79,000 venture. So yeah. That's going to be a fun one next year for fundraising. But then that is built in. So we do have money built into the prices to replace them, but we would need extra. So it's all the way we do it that way. But this year we are looking at putting on a Santa's Grotto for people with disabilities or the SEN community, because we have felt strongly. We tried to do it last year and it didn't quite work because we came up with the idea too late, and it just was not the right time. This year we've started looking at it, because with the SEN community and those with disabilities, going to a Santa's Grotto is difficult. There might be stairs involved. There may be little lips that, into the grotto that normal people don't see because they just step over it. Yet a powered assisted wheelchair user might not be able to get into the grotto because it's been put in a shed and it's not accessible. Or we've been talking to families, and they have children with disabilities where they are still mentally looking at a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, but they're 6'7" and 17. And you take a 6'7", 17-year-old boy to go and see Santa at a local garden centre, and they get stared at, and they get looked at, and they get judged. And that's not fair, and that's not right. So we're putting on a Santa's Grotto in Dover in December, dates TBC, for everybody. So, we will be inclusive. It will, we're still building it. So we will ask whether you want music, or whether music will be a trigger. So we can either have it a quiet session completely, or music can be involved. We'll try and get gifts that are for the person, and whether that's the parents provide the gifts because they actually want to do something slightly different, or we provide the gifts but knowing that they're where their ability lies. We will try and do that research beforehand. We try and make it a special magical event, because people miss out because they can't get to any other grotto, or they feel they can't go to any other grotto because they get judged, or the ability to get there isn't available. So it's something that we want to build this community, and we want to encourage this community, and it's all about being seen and included in the wider world.
And it's so obvious the core values that you have. There's so many similarities between what you do at Wet Wheels in terms of the experience and the boat experiences, and everything being very personalised and for the person, to what you're planning to do with this Santa's Grotto, which is to be personalised and for the person. And I think It's just like, it's amazing. And I think it's like, yeah, I want to come along. It sounds brilliant.
You could be my elf.
I have been an elf before.
There you go. You've got the job.
I got experience. So thinking then around you and what you like to do in terms of travel personally, if you could choose anywhere at all in the world to go to visit with no barriers, no cost barriers, like whatever it is, no, distance barriers, where would you go? And
I think most people would answer this completely differently to me. I think most people will go very hot. I want to go cold. I'd love to go up into like the Arctic Circle, Greenland, Iceland, see the northern lights, all that romance of cold, the ice hotel cuddled up warm, that sort of thing. That has always really fascinated me. And I just love to go and do that. That's the sort of place I'd like to go and do, is that cold, so you can wrap up warm, sit next to a warm fire, nice hot chocolate, lots of marshmallows, that sort of thing. The northern lights fascinate me. I was lucky enough last year to see them outside my front door, and it's just like, oh my life. It's like James and I travel to Scotland regularly. Busman's holiday, we do the Caledonian Canal on a boat, and we, every time we've done it, we wanted to do two things: the Northern Lights and see otters. And we'd never done either until last year, where we saw the Northern Lights here, in Kent of all places, and then we saw an otter on our last trip up to the Caledonian Canal on a boat, and it wasn't in the place we should have seen them, and literally it just swam past the boat, and we were like, oh, that'd be an otter then. And it was just really like completely nonplussed, because the time before we stay at it's an area on the Caledonian Canal called Kytra, and it is middle of nowhere, and when you're moored up you can hear the otters squeaking. And we were lying in bed on the boat, and we could hear them squeaking really close. And when we got up in the morning, our boat was completely covered in footprints, and they'd always obviously been all on the boat. And we were like, oh my gosh. And then the next time we went up, I'm about to have a visitor. Next time we went up, we could hear them, and we put up a wildlife camera but didn't get anything. And we were like, oh, really disappointed. And then went down the canal a bit and moored up at Fort Augustus, which is like quite a busy area. And I was sat on the back of the boat having breakfast the next morning, and this movement across the water on Loch Ness caught my eye, and I thought, that's a funny looking log. And then when I looked closer, it was an otter, but it was not in the area that I thought otters were. So, it's amazing.
I love that. I love like all the nature stuff. The Northern Lights would be amazing to see. I was asleep when they came to Kent, and so I was gutted to miss them. But no, that all sounds amazing. So I have one final question to ask you. But before I ask you that, I'd love for you to let our listeners know where they can connect with Wet Wheels Southeast online, where they can book if they're listening thinking this is for me. Yeah, how can they get in touch with you?
So we have a website, which is www.wetwheelssoutheast.co.uk. And that's where you can book. We are coming to the end of the season, end of October. We are coming very much to the end of the season because of the weather. People don't want to go out in gales, funnily enough, and when it's cold, it's just not suitable. So we will reopen in Aprilish time, so round about Easter, April through to September, October time. And we normally put the bookings on round about January, February time, once I've built them, because I've got a whole load of jobs to do to get those ready. But we're online there, but we also on all the social medias, so Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I think there is a Twitter / X site, but we hardly ever post there anymore because it's just got a bit weird. And we're also on LinkedIn as well. So, we're in all the different social medias, and I think we're Wet Wheels SE on those, or Wet Wheels _SE, depending on which platform we're on. Basically, yeah. So if they search for Wet Wheels Southeast, we'll tend to pop up.
So before we finish, I've got one final question for you, and that is our magic wand question, which is if you had a magic wand that you could use to change anything in travel and tourism to make it more accessible and inclusive, what would you use the magic wand for?
I think across the board, it would be consistency of accessibility. So everywhere you go, you have a different, everyone has a different idea of what accessible is and what accessible means. And that gets confusing, particularly those for those with a disability, they can turn up to someone that says, I'm accessible, and they'll turn up. And it's not, because they'll have a step that might only be an inch, but actually that inch is a barrier. And, it's making sure that we've got a level playing field. So when you say you're accessible, you have to be accessible. And that's across the board, whether that's for neurodiverse disabilities or for physical disabilities. Everybody has to have the same experience. And you're not singled out, and you're not pushed into a corner, or, oh, I'm sorry, you've got to go that way because of X, Y, and Z. If you think about it, it's like if you turned up at a castle, and someone said to me, I'm sorry, you're blonde, you've got to go left, while everyone else goes right, you would then be a bit like, hang on a second, that's not right. But that's what's happening. So it would be a level playing field. Just when someone says we're accessible, they actually understand what that word means.
Yeah, absolutely. I think consistency is so key, so that it's not like you have one experience at one place and an entirely different experience at another, and you're caught off guard because you thought something was accessible when it wasn't. So yeah, I really like that magic wand answer. Elspeth, thank you so much for joining us. It has been absolute pleasure speaking to you today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for listening. I'm Amy Walters, brand and design expert. Our aim is to make tourism work for everyone, powered by lived experience and expertise.
And I'm Louisa van Vessem, a consultant, mentor and facilitator. And together we help tourism businesses build inclusive strategy and design that actually works.
You can find us online at Inclusive Tourism on Instagram and LinkedIn, and check out the show notes to connect with us.
See you soon.